What's up, guys? Welcome to XFL Weekly. Week 4 just behind us. We are entering week 5. I am your host, Kyle Krajewski, joined by my lovely, as always, co-host, Zach Cole. Zach, what's up? How you doing?
I'm doing all right, man. I'm hunkered down in my house on a nice cold March afternoon here, and I'm just ready to talk about some football with you.
Yeah, how about it? Mid-March, we're talking about football, and we're about to have some March Madness with some lovely dessert of XFL football,
That's
and
going to be a good weekend.
that sounds incredible. But who we are XFL Weekly. If you haven't tuned in before, we're here to chat about anything and everything XFL Weekly. You can follow us on Instagram and Twitter at XFL Weekly. If you are listening to this as an audio podcast, you could find us on YouTube at XFL Weekly, or if you're tuning in on YouTube, hello, and you can find us and listen to us on podcasts wherever podcasts are found. Just search XFL Weekly and you can find us there.
hmm
So week 4 just took place, and Zach, I hate to break it to you, but The Rock is human.
You alluded to this pre-show, and you didn't tell me why. I need to hear. You gotta clue me in. I've been itching to figure out why.
So the big news this this week of the XFL was St. Louis hosted a football game again,
hmm
and that was huge to a sold out crowd.
I think
Uh,
38,000 fans. That's pretty
Yeah, like
impressive.
38,110 or something close to that. A lot of people. It was sold out, and I think it's a spring league record for attendance at a stadium for a game, and that's huge.
Okay.
So I think everybody was like, "Oh, The Rock's going to show up. The Rock is going to be there." Danny Garcia was there. Lovely as always. She's
Okay.
incredible.
Yep.
But The Rock, unfortunately, proved to us that he is human and cannot be in two places at once because for some reason he decided to go to the Oscars instead.
Oh, okay. I think I'll have to give him a pass on that one. It's slightly higher priority, I think, but I'm gonna guess he was sitting at the Oscars checking his phone the whole time, just looking up the scores of the Battlehawks game. I think he just really wanted to be in St. Louis with that crowd.
I can't blame him. That crowd was incredible watching them just show up. That was incredible to see. But The Rock, I don't blame him. I'd go to the Oscars too, but I think St. Louis wanted to see him. But they'll be there again this week, and I no doubts that he'll make a visit.
So now here's the question for you. Is St. Louis going to seek to fill the stadium even more and break their attendance record again? Or is the hype going to die down after the first game back? And it's just going to be, I'm not going to say that attendance is going to be bad, but it's going to be, it's going to level out a little bit.
I hate to say it, but I think they've hit their peak considering
Okay.
they sold out. Um, so it's kind of hard to fill up a sold out stadium. But who knows? Maybe they'll add an extra deck. Maybe
Oh, always they'll just
a
break out
500.
lawn chairs, folding chairs, anything.
They'll over the week they'll add a 500 and 600 level to the dome, and it's just going to be packed. They're like the Rocks here. We got to show up. We got to show out. St. Louis rally around this team, and they are.
I love it. I hope, yeah. For the sake of the XFL, it's a good thing to see that many fans showing up and showing out. And I hope that they can fill that stadium, and even more, and just continue doing it week in and week out. I mean, if they can continue pushing that attendance record, it's only good for the whole entire league, and it's good for the obviously the team itself. But then that pushes them to hopefully build a stadium or continue expanding and growing this thing that they've started already, which is just the beauty of the whole thing.
I think the excitement around it is just proving to the NFL that St. Louis needs a professional football team, and they have it now.
Agreed.
And St. Louis is a football town, whether the NFL realizes it or not, but
Yeah.
they love their football, and it shows when they show up for the St. Louis Battlehawks.
Yeah, and not to sidetrack too much from football, but I mean, even with baseball coming up, St. Louis fans are some of the most diehard, intelligent baseball fans, and I mean, even St. Louis Blues fans are bleed blue blood fans. They
Oh
love their
yeah,
team, and so I think that taking football from them really kind of hit them near and dear to their heart. So I think that bringing back the XFL team was a great first step, like you mentioned. I think it's just proven to the NFL that it's inevitably when the expansion happens, it's a place that needs to be considered.
Absolutely. And as St. Louis Battlehawks fans always say, call us the law. So they're a devoted bunch. They love their football, and it really shows.
Kyle, one more thing before we get into our breakdown. Just speaking about the NFL, I don't know if you saw this week, but the NFL is actually considering some rule changes. I think I saw they got proposed maybe yesterday, maybe we're recording this on Tuesday. Maybe it was yesterday, Monday, or it was the day before on Sunday. I'm not sure when, but they proposed that 4th and 20 to replace the onside kicks, which I think would just be awesome for the NFL to it makes it more action in the game. It's just better for the game, I think.
I agree, and I think it's because we've seen this variation of the 4th and 15 or the 4th and 20 to replace the onside kick in just about every spring league football league we've seen in the past 4 years. And because of that, and just the fact that every other professional football league keeps trying to get away from the onside kick, just kind of should prove just the fact that the onside kick is outdated. Or at least needs a revamp. And this revamp works. And we've seen it work this season. And I think that alone brings a little bit of excitement. It makes these out of reach games a little bit more exciting. I think all you have to really do is point to like win totals or win percentages and kind of see the gap closing because of who knows, because these 4th and 15 are more likely to happen than an onside kick.
Right.
And that's exciting.
Right. Yeah, I just after doing some brief research, they've proposed 4th and 15 before, and it's gotten shot down by the teams in the league. So now they're going back with 4th and 20, which I do think has a better shot of being approved.
Yeah, those extra 5 yards,
they matter.
They mean a lot.
Yep.
I think it's going to happen every year moving forward. If it doesn't happen again this year, there's going to be a variation of this rule introduced or proposed by league, by teams. Because I think the way the NFL does is a team introduces the rule and then they all vote on it, or multiple teams.
Yep.
I think yesterday the Eagles are the ones that brought it up or introduced it. Most of the time, it's a team that suffered from
has been burned by the rule.
Yeah, like we've seen the overtime rules change because of burn victims, I can say.
Bills.
So it's these teams that kind of suffer from that, but I don't think the Eagles really suffered from an onside kick. I think it's more just like, let's get it in here. Let's change this up.
The Eagles also proposed the ability to wear number 0. So tell me how they have been burned by that one in the past.
Maybe number 10. Somebody has, I bet you it's Devontae Smith wants to wear number 0 and he just can't fit into a number 10. He's
going, I'm gonna leave unless you guys get 0 brought into this league.
They've been burned by their current roster demanding number
future
0.
Burn.
Or they've made too many promises to some free agents. You can have number 0. Oh, we got to get number 0 into the jersey number.
Long story short, the XFL is kind of helping implement some of these rule changes, moving to the NFL, which is what we love to see, and that just kind of helps solidify that the XFL is sort of like a minor league system for the NFL, and we love to see it.
It's a bit of a testing ground. It may not be a minor league feeding farm system like we know it. It's more like hey, try this out, or like a team experiment. And it's really cool to see these experiments or these rule changes or differences kind of potentially taking shape in the NFL.
Definitely.
All right. Enough rule talk. Let's talk some week 4. Just a quick rundown of each of these games that took place this past week. Starting with the Houston Roughnecks and the Orlando Guardians in the lovely Orlando Guardian Dome that we know and love. And this looked like a beatdown, and it, for the most part, was. The Roughnecks beat the Guardians 44-16, and now the Roughnecks are now undefeated at 4-0, and the Guardians are winless at 0-4. And this was a rematch from a week 1 blowout, 33-12 there, so not much has changed between these two teams. The Guardians kicked off this game, and it was just penalty after penalty from them. And the Roughnecks were absolutely able to capitalize on that with a beautiful double
Ooh,
forward pass
the
touchdown.
double forward pass. We love to see that.
Love to see it, and I think they credited it to Mike Leach, legendary college head coach,
Absolutely.
and credited to him. And that was an exciting play to watch, and even better that it was honored to him. So that was really cool. But the Guardians started to come back. Came back with a little bit of electricity. Kicked off the second half. We're able to figure something out. Closed the gap a little bit between 26-16, but Houston was able to keep it out of reach from there. Jontre Kirkland now stands on the season with 4 receiving touchdowns. He's the league leader, tied with Hakeem Butler.
Mhm.
And Brandon Silvers, league lead in passing touchdowns with 10. So that's beautiful to see. This team is a passing offense, and Max Borghi, a little bit limited here this week, but he was there. So this was kind of a pass-first offense for this team this week.
Yeah, I don't really have a lot more to add than what you said. I think that we are clearly seeing the best team in the league and the least best team in the league. And it's the second time they played each other. Neither game was particularly close. I think the first one was 33-12, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And then we saw this one, a 44-16 victory for the Roughnecks again. It really is kind of establishing that both teams are at the opposite ends of the spectrum, I think. And you mentioned some of the highlights from this game with Jontre Kirkland. You mentioned Borghi wasn't great. Silvers was solid as usual. I don't want to say it was an expected game, but I mean it was more or less kind of what we anticipated coming into this matchup between a top end team and a bottom end team.
Now I'm not going to say Borghi was bad. He was limited. He was a little hurt.
Limited, yes,
So
limited,
don't worry about that. I know you love yourself some Borghi.
absolutely.
So I don't want you to worry. He's still kicking. He's doing just fine. Nothing could tie him down.
Well, I'm going to follow up a game that had 60 total points here with a game that only had 21 total points. The second Saturday game was between the Brahmas and the Sea Dragons, and it was up in Seattle. The Sea Dragons came out victorious 15-6. Surprisingly, a defensive battle. I mean, obviously, when you see a 15-6 game, you immediately think that it's a defensive battle. The Brahmas put up 6 points before halftime, and that was it. Jack Cohn wasn't particularly impressive or anything. He went for a measly 189 in the game passing and really didn't contribute super heavily anywhere else. But on the other side of the ball, we saw the possibly most potent offense in the league. I mean, they have the leading passer, rusher, and receiver with Danucci as their leading passer, Morgan Ellison as the leading rusher, and Ja'Cour Pearson and Josh Gordon. Actually, I'm sorry. Ellison is with the Brahmas, right? I'm sorry, I got that backwards. But Pearson and Gordon being 1 and 2 in receiving, I mean, they are a potent offense. So one last cool thing to mention from this game is that John Parker Romo, who is the kicker for the Brahmas, not only has the longest XFL field goal in the Seattle Seahawks Lumen Stadium or Lumen Field, he has the NFL longest also. He's got the longest ever field goal made in Lumen Field at 57 yards. So it wasn't all doom and gloom, I guess. They can stamp that one in the record books for now. So shout out to you, John Parker Romo.
Zach, you had it right. Ellison's a Sea Dragon.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
But yeah, the Sea Dragons sitting up at top at all three at passing, rushing, and receiving is incredible to see, but even more incredible to see them kind of slowed down this past week. That was impressive by San Antonio, and I think that's a team that could build something off of this. Their 1-3 record isn't exciting, but I think this is one of those that lower half team that still has life. I'm not counting them out.
Yeah, definitely. I think that they're a better team than their record indicates right now.
Absolutely. And then switching gears again, we mentioned it already, but Arlington Renegades jumped out to St. Louis faced the Battlehawks in a spring league record attendance, 38,000 plus fans, and beautiful to see. Beautiful to see a sold out stadium in the spring. That was incredible. Battlehawks came away with a win here, winning 24-11. Arlington playing some pretty good defensive football, just couldn't hold on to the Battlehawks offensive system going here. But Renegades just can't figure things out on offense. Hakeem Butler, mentioned him before, but he's tied with John Trey Kirkland with touchdowns with 4, and continues to reel him in. AJ McCarron had a pretty cool dime throw to him. That was really cool to see. And then Arlington offensively has to really figure things out. They're sitting at 2-2, and they look a little bent out of shape. They only have 4 total offensive touchdowns this season, and 4 games into the season, that's not a lot, but their defense helps them score, helps them win. They're 2-2. Battlehawks continue on to 3-1, and kind of a matchup I think both teams kind of want to look at and might want to improve on moving forward.
Yeah, I think that the key here in this game, I think the Battlehawks are very good, and I don't think there's a lot that we need to say about them. But I think that for Arlington, they need to protect the ball a little bit better. We saw Kyle Sloter throw 3 interceptions in this game, which is definitely not what you're looking for. And especially when you're playing a game where you're kind of trying to chase from behind. I mean, let's see. St. Louis was out to an 11-3 lead in the second quarter. And then push that up to a 17-3 lead. And, you need someone that can throw the ball and take care of it. And if Sloter's not going to be able to do that, that's not going to result in a lot of wins for them. So, but I think, again, this is a testament to how good St. Louis is as a football team. And I think that they belong in that upper class of XFL teams right now. What do you think?
Yeah, I think, man, Battlehawks, they're exciting. I think they deserve it to be with this 3-1 record. But man, I think their one loss being to the Defenders, which they rematch again this week. That's going to be an exciting game, which I'm saying game of the week, but let's not jump into that yet. But I'm with you. I think the Battlehawks are kind of an easy top 3 pick here. With the Roughnecks and the Defenders.
Okay, so for our last team here, we, like you mentioned, have one of the top 3 teams in the league, I would say, and that was the game between the Vegas Vipers and the DC Defenders. The Defenders came out 32-18 on top. Again, another top end versus bottom end matchup here. The Defenders moved to 4-0, and the Vipers moved to 0-4. And I think that the story here, first, I'll just mention Vegas real quick. Nothing super crazy from Vegas. Luis Perez pitched in 2 touchdowns after replacing Brett Hundley. And I think the first quarter, I think he came in for him. So, we get to see this 2-headed monster from the Vipers with their 2 quarterback system here. Their run game really isn't super solid. They don't bring a lot, or they don't bring one focal point rusher, kind of like we see on the other side with the Defenders. I know they use 3 different guys, but all 3 of them are good. But the story for Vegas is no one is particularly standing out. Jeff Bidet did have a pretty good outing. He had 7 catches for 80 yards, and Cinque Sweeting had 2 touchdowns for them as well. So just, okay game, nothing crazy, but obviously the Defenders are the talking point here. And boy, do they just run the crap out of the ball. I mean, they're averaging 151 rushing yards a game, and everyone else in the league is averaging 70 and change. And like I mentioned, it's coming just from everyone on this offense. I mean, Teamu runs the ball. They have Abram Smith that runs the ball. They have who else? Raquel Armstead that runs the ball. De'Aaron King runs the ball. Like, everyone runs the ball on this team. And I mean, De'Aaron King is just he's magnetic to the end zone. It's funny that they're we've talked about it before, but he's like this quarterback that's just had this second coming as a running back now, and he just can't seem to stay out of the end zone. So
he alone has 2 more touchdowns than the Battlehawks do. 4 on the ground just to himself, and then 2 more in the air. King is a fantastic QB2 in this offense, and they've got a system that's working.
Absolutely. I mean, and he doesn't, like we talked about it before also, he doesn't have to throw the ball. I mean, in this game, he only threw the ball twice. He was 2 for 2 for 38 yards, but I mean, he doesn't need to do that. That's not his thing in this offense. And I think that until a team steps up and says, you cannot run the ball against us, the defenders are just going to run the ball down everyone's throats. I mean, it's kind of to liken it to an NFL, it's kind of like the Tennessee Titans. Like, Derrick Henry is going to run the ball at you, and until you can stop him, that's what they're going to do. So, I really like what they do, and I mean clearly the outcomes of their games also really like what they do because they are now 4-0.
Yeah, and you mentioned it before. Hundley was he started the game off with a fumble on the very first play of the game, and then couldn't do anything on the second drive. So they turned to Perez, but the defenders continue. Defenders have something going. They've got something going defensively, and they've got something going on the rushing attack, and it's working because they move on to a lovely 4-0.
I'm excited for the playoffs because we clearly have these three teams that are going to absolutely duke it out at the top. But I think that there's also kind of like a sneaky 2 or 3 teams too that if they get into the playoffs
Absolutely.
could make a little bit of noise, like the Sea Dragons, the Brahmas, and even the Renegades. I think if they can get some stuff figured out, I think all 6 of those teams are still competitive in this league.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think, and we've still got 6 more weeks left of football to go, or regular season football to go here. So I think there's definitely still time for some of these teams to turn things around. I think San Antonio being one of those. The Renegades might have something. They might figure something out offensively. I think their offensive line is really what's killing them. And the Sea Dragons, Danucci's throwing interceptions left and right. If he can sort that out, they might be a powerhouse moving forward because their defense is clicking right now too.
Kyle, let me ask you. Let me put you in coach's shoes here. If you're the Sea
It.
Dragons coach, I mean, do you try to control Danucci and limit his passing to limit those interceptions, or do you just let the gunslinger be the gunslinger?
Who's their coach? I'm blanking on his name right now.
Oh shoot!
It's Jim Haslett.
Yes, Jim Haslett.
I sent you the clip at the end of the game where because Danucci threw an interception like on the last drive of the game and basically put San Antonio in position to score and be in the lead. And luckily that the defense was able to stop them. But there's a clip of Jim Haslett running up to Danucci like after the game and saying like, "I'm gonna kill you." Like he's very clearly frustrated that this is happening, and I think that's just such a hilarious thing to see. Just the coach, and you could hear because they're all mic'd up. He just runs up like, "I'm gonna kill you."
It was so matter of factly too. That was the best part. It was like, "I'm going to kill you." Like it wasn't.
It was lovely. I think his huge takeaway from this game was very much Danucci. You got to get things together. Yes, we're winning. Yes, you're passing a lot. Yes, it's working. But man, you could very easily turn everything around with an interception or two.
And we said he's got the lead in passing yards. He also has the lead in interceptions.
Yeah, and they're winning. They're on a 2-game win streak. It's going to be a tough matchup this week against the Roughnecks. That's going to be a very interesting game. So it's definitely one that he kind of has to step in and really hone himself together, because if he doesn't, the Roughnecks are going to take advantage of that.
Yeah, absolutely. All
right. That was week 4. Let's jump in to week 5. Week 5 kicks off Thursday night, Zach. We got a Thursday night game, and it's I
love it. I've been missing it.
I've been missing it too. Nothing beats Thursday night XFL football. Once again with the Sea Dragons. We've got the Houston Roughnecks in Seattle facing off against the Sea Dragons Thursday night at 10:30 p.m. Eastern. So us East Coast boys it's going to be a late night. But it's going to be worth it. This is looking up to be a fantastic game. Roughnecks are 4-0. Sea Dragons are 2-2. on a 2-game win streak. We've got the best defense and points allowed in the Houston Roughnecks facing off against the best offense and total yardage in the Seattle Sea Dragons. I'm looking forward to see how this one shapes out because it could be a stalemate or it could wind up just being a high-scoring showdown.
I think that if we can see the Sea Dragons, like we just talked about, if we can see Danucci clean up some of those turnovers, who knows? Maybe
Who
they're in
knows?
it late. Who knows? And we know that the Sea Dragons have a love for theatrics late in the game. So for the Roughnecks, they can't. I think they need to bury the Sea Dragons and not let them around because if they are around at the end of the game, who's to say what's going to happen?
Yeah. All right. Game 2. We've got one game, actually 2 games. I missed it because they're both so late. First game on our Saturday night slate Saturday at 7. The DC Defenders ride into St. Louis to face the Battlehawks. Again, Saturday, 7 p.m. Eastern. Defenders are 3-0, and the St. Louis Battlehawks are 3-1, with their one loss being against the Defenders 2 weeks ago when DC won 34-28. One thing to highlight from this game on my end, I mean, other than it being a fantastic, probably my game of the week, just because it's in St. Louis. These two teams are playing some fantastic football. But Jordan Ta'amu returns to St. Louis. He played for the Battlehawks in 2020. So he's back in St. Louis. And I think that city has a lot of love for him just because he was there in 2020 when football kind of returned there for a little bit. And so I think it's going to be a nice little reunion for them. And I'm excited to watch two teams go at it. That looks to be a fantastic matchup.
It's definitely one of the best matchups. This week's full of really, really good matchups, top to bottom. If it's not great teams, it's terrible teams playing, and I'm fired up for the next one you're going to talk about. But before I glaze over Teamo here, I think he's going to be really, really well received in St. Louis because, like you talked about, he was beloved there in the XFL 2.0 rendition. So I think that him going back there is going to be special for him, and I think that. I don't know. I don't want to make a prediction yet. I'll save that for my picks.
Lovely. And then you mentioned it. You teased this one a little bit. The Tank Bowl, Saturday night, 10 p.m. Eastern. We've got the 0-4 Orlando Guardians heading out to Vegas, where they face the 0-4 Vegas Vipers. One of these teams has to get a win, and it has to come down to the week where they're both 0-4. Both teams, the two lowest teams in point differential, and that the gap between them two is huge. Vipers are at a minus 32 point differential, while the Guardians sit at minus 68. And I think a majority of that is from facing the Roughnecks twice. Either way, we've got two 0-4 teams clashing. One of them is going to get a win. Saturday night, it's a late night game. You can sit back, relax, and watch. After you've watched Teamu destroy the Battlehawks in St. Louis, you can sit down and watch two teams just play some messy football in Vegas.
So the question is the Rock reverse psychologying us on this one? Did he purposely put two terrible teams on late at night thinking, maybe people are gonna watch this because it's so bad that they just have to. You can't look away. So I don't know. I'm interested to see in this game. I think that the Vipers, even though they are 0-4, are still better than the Guardians. I think the Guardians are pretty bad top to bottom. I mean, the Vipers we've seen be in a lot of games and kind of just get pulled away from at the end by the better team. So I don't know. Like I said, I'll leave my predictions, my final predictions for the picks here. But I think that the Vipers are the better team in this one, even though they're both 0-4.
Yeah, I think I agree, but I think that's the beauty of being able to see them face off against each other.
Absolutely.
We could see two completely different teams line up against each other this week. All right, and then wrapping up week 5, Sunday night, 9 p.m. Eastern, we've got the 2-2 Arlington Renegades facing off in San Antonio against the 1-3 San Antonio Brahmas. These are the two, I guess my one takeaway here is that these are the two lowest teams in total yardage. They are the only two to not break 1,000 yards offensively. Brahmas sit at 943 and the Renegades sit at 857. So I think we're very much in for a defensive matchup here.
I think you hit the nail on the head. I mean, we've talked already about how both of these teams seem to have it together on defense, but are really struggled to get anything going on offense. So I think that we look for another defensive battle in this one. And again, I'm going to leave my pick till we make our picks.
All right. Speaking of picks, let's jump into it.
Let's do it. I'm fired up.
All right. Last week was a rough run for me. I went 3-5. You went 4-4, broke even.
That's a win, baby.
You're catching up to me on the overall pick record. I sit at 19-13. You sit at 16-15-1. You are just above 500, and this is where I lengthen my lead on you. So good luck this week, but just know I'm going to beat you.
Well, I'm going to go cool 8 now, so watch this.
All right, I'm excited. Maybe I'll just tail every one of your picks.
Just play guard. I like that.
Game one.
Go ahead. I'll let you introduce.
All right, game one. Houston Roughnecks. It's in Seattle against the Sea Dragons. Roughnecks are -3-point favorites. Money line -165. Over under set at 41.5. What you got for me?
I have for you the Roughnecks -3. I think that they are in the elite tier of the XFL. I think them and the Defenders are in the elite tier, but even a step above the other two guys. I think the Sea Dragons and the Battlehawks are close seconds, but shoot, man, the Roughnecks are just wild. They are very, very good this year. And as far as the spread goes, it's set at 41.5 right now. I'm going to go over on this one. The Roughnecks would have beat that spread by themselves last week, putting up 44 points. And you throw in a little bit more of an offensively competent team on the other side than the Guardians, and I think that this smashes. If I could, I don't want to speak over whatever you're going to pick here, Kyle, but if I could say a lock of the week, I think the over in this game is a very, very safe bet.
Well, Zach, I joked about following your picks. I'm joining you.
Beautiful.
Both of those. Houston -3. I agree 100% with what you said. I think this team is rolling offensively. And yeah, their defense might slow down Seattle a little bit, but I think Seattle's still also going to put up points, and that brings us to the over. Give me the over. Both teams are going to score. Make it a cool 25-21 game, and you've got the over. And let's see it.
Yep, definitely.
Next game, we've got game of the week. DC Defenders against the St. Louis Battlehawks. Defenders are favored -2. Over under set at 42. Defenders have the money line of -130. What you got?
See, I think that this game is a little bit closer. If I kind of had to, not to get too far off topic, if I had to rank the four teams, I think I would say that the Roughnecks are 1, the Defenders are 2, the Battlehawks are 3, and the Sea Dragons are 4. So having that 1 versus 4, I think there was a bigger separation between the Roughnecks and the Sea Dragons. This game, I think, is pretty close, and that's no slight to either team. Definitely, I think that both teams are very, very good. I think for my spread pick here, I'm going to go with I'm going to say the Defenders stay undefeated. I know that's we're probably not making for a very exciting week this week because I feel like my dog's talking to me over here. I feel like we're going to be similar this week. So as for the over under, it's at 42 right now. I think both of these teams can score also. So I'm going to go over in this game as well. I know that the Defenders have a pretty good defense, ironically, as their name would state. But I think that both teams will be able to put up somewhere around 20 points, which should push the over.
Zach, this is where we disagree.
Uh-oh
is right. I hate to say it, but I'm taking the Battlehawks +2.
Ooh, I like it.
I think I want the Defenders to win. However, I think the Battlehawks in St. Louis come away with something magical. Maybe it's the home crowd, as we saw the Defenders 2 weeks ago, kind of put things in their own hands, and those fans took over. I think we're going to see the same thing with St. Louis, and the Battlehawks are going to get a little bit of a fan favoritism here. And with that, I think they keep it super close or win out straight up. But I'm joining you in taking the over. I think we saw it 2 weeks ago. The game was 34-28, and I mean that blows 42 out of the water. So give me the over.
All right. Well, even though I like where you're going, I think that we should. I don't know. We had to differ at some point. So you kind of convinced me into the Battlehawks, but I'm going to say that the Teamu magic it shines through here, and we'll just I'm going to stick with the Defenders. But all right, the next game we're looking at here is the Guardians and the Vipers. We got the good old 0-4 bowl. It's going to be ugly, but that doesn't mean you can't bet on it. That's our motto here, especially at 10 p.m. on Saturday night. The Guardians are visiting the Vipers, so that kind of plays a little role in my mind. And I'm a little surprised by the line. The Vipers are favored by 7.5 points right now. That's where the spread sits, and the over/under is 42. I think for this, I am going to go ahead and say that I want to go with the Guardians plus 7.5. I know that's crazy, but I think that is a very, very large spread, especially for a Vipers team that hasn't been particularly potent at scoring points. I see 18, 26, 6, 20. Yeah, so I'm going to go with the 7.5 there. And for the over-under, I'm going to go under.
All right. Under 42. Interesting. Well, Zach, I think Orlando has a huge difference in their point differential for a reason, and I think Vegas is a team that can kind of take advantage of that. So I'm taking Vegas minus 7.5, and I feel dirty taking that just because this is two bad teams and that's such a huge spread. But I feel like the Guardians are kind of not that good. However, give me the over.
Oh man.
I think Vegas is going to score. They're going to score. So that's going to give them the 8-point differential that they need, and give me the over 42.
This is like a race between a 3-legged horse and a one-eyed horse. It's like, well, what do you want to go with? What's the lesser of two evils?
Oh man, you're so right. You're so right.
All right, last game we got here on our slate is our one and only Sunday game, and is again a 10 p.m. game, nice and late. We have the Renegades visiting the San Antonio Brahmas. The Renegades at 2-2, the Brahmas at 1-3. The line right now sits at 2.5 points in the favor of the Brahmas, the home team, and the over/under is at 35.5, which checks out with what we talked about with them both being very defensive teams. So, taking a look at this game, Kyle, I'm going to go ahead and stick with the team here that has shown a little bit of more offensive prowess. Yeah. I don't want to say it's been drastic in one direction or the other, but I think that the Brahmas are going to be my pick here. I'm going to take the Brahmas the Brahmas minus 2.5 to beat the Renegades. I think the Brahmas are much better than 1-3. And as for the over/under, 35.5 is a low over/under. But 35.5, I'm going to say under. That does not make me feel good, but in each of the last I'm looking back here, in each of the last 2 weeks, week 2 didn't have one, but in the last 2 weeks, 2 of the 4 games have actually been under 35 and a half points. So I'm feeling safe that this defensive battle is going to be an under.
And I am joining you. I think this is
Beautiful.
going to be a defensive matchup. We spoke on it earlier. These are two defenses that are playing really well. I agree that the Brahmas are much better than their 1-3 record.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is kind of one of those get right weeks. They figure things out, but keep it low because this is two offenses that are not clicking and two defenses that are. So who knows? Maybe we see 4 touchdowns defensively, but I'm not banking on that, and I'm going to keep it to the under as well. So
Kyle, it's just really, I don't know. Maybe I'm getting kind of spacey and too introspective here to the whole thing, but I think in an 8-team league, just talking about how we feel like the Brahmas are better than 1-3, or how the Vipers are a little bit better than 0-4. I think in an 8-team league, it's so kind of like,
yeah,
we've seen teams play each other already, and it's only 10-week season. I think that it kind of smushes everything down a little bit. Where in like the NFL you look at, there's the Chiefs and the Bills of the world, and then you get that second tier of, say, I don't know, the Cowboys and whoever. But there's
yeah,
I don't, maybe 6 or 7 tiers to the NFL. Here we're kind of just being forced to say there's the greats, the okays, and the bads. And I think that that's just unfortunately it's just a result of it being an 8-team league. Maybe, who knows, maybe the XFL will expand one day.
yeah. Who knows?
Let's bring a team to
And
Philadelphia. Why don't we?
bring a team to Philly, back to New York.
New York would be great too.
Expand, and I think that's what we're going to see kind of moving forward. I think this 8-team league is definitely like just the beginning, and I think expansion is kind of in the realm of
Definitely
very possible possibilities.
You got to figure there's got to be tons and tons of guys out there that are looking to get a shot.
Absolutely, it's not going to be difficult for these teams to put together put together 2 extra teams. You're not going to find that to be difficult at all.
Yeah.
All right. That wraps up our week 5 picks. And that kind of brings us towards the end of the show. But I've got to plug in our Pick'em League. This week or last week, we had 20 guys in there, or 20 people, I should say. And
let's keep it growing.
Let's keep it growing. This week, if you don't know, Pick'em, hosted by XFL. It's on their app. I think there's even a quick link in, like, if you have the ESPN Fantasy app, you can get a quick link into it. And I'll have the link and code in our description of the podcast and the video and whatever else there is. I'll even tweet it out. So basically, it's a Pick'em. You pick an over and under. They give you a prompt to pick an over under, and then you kind of say how willing that is to happen. You get 300 footballs to kind of wager how possible you think it's going to happen, essentially. For example, this week, Houston wide receiver Jontre Kirkland scored 3 touchdowns during his senior season at LSU. Kirkland is currently tied for the most receiving touchdowns in the XFL with 4. Will Kirkland score over under 0.5 receiving touchdowns against Seattle? So you're basically saying, will he have a touchdown or not? And you pick the over-under, and you kind of say, I want to put 20 footballs on that, and that's it. We've got our own little lobby here. 20 people in there, last I checked. I just escaped the screen.
Actually, you know what? We have a load more. There's 26.
Oh!
26.
Oh, we did have a load more. Well, hello, cool. All 26 of you.
Pretty cool.
Right now, we've got a Turbo Days in
Turbo
first,
Days, yes, sir.
Leading us all. Shout out to Turbo Days. And shout out to everybody else that's joined. Uncle Squirrely, Zach's bitter rival,
I caught you son of a gun.
is slowly falling, but I had a good week this week. Zach came in this past week at 11th. Such a shame.
That's
but Joey Tongs led us in week 4. Shout out Joey Tongs. And that's our weekly pick'em. That's our XFL pick'em. Join in. Link, code, description. Everything will be in the description. So join in. It's pretty cool. And then something else that's taking place. Mentioned it before. It's March Madness. And just like everything else that you're probably listening or watching, we're putting together a bracket group. Again, I hope that you know what March Madness is. You create a bracket, you have a little fun, you pick the winner, and ESPN kind of scores it who has the better bracket. Nothing crazy. We're just putting together a bracket for the community. Have a little fun with it.
Yeah.
Link, everything will be in the description. Just join in. It's going to be fun. We'll shout out the winner in a month when this all wraps up.
Yeah, right.
Maybe give you a weekly update on how everybody's looking. And yeah, join in. I'll put, again, description. It'll be fun. It'll be really cool.
Kyle, real quick, just to put a bow on that, I think I just want to speak for both of us. I think we love this little community that we got going.
Absolutely.
And anything that we can do to contribute to this and make it more fun and bring people together around XFL football is what we're here for. So, whether it's just they're doing a silly little a pick 'em or if they're doing a bracket pool or something, we just want to show you guys that we love this community and we want to be a part of it just as much as you guys do. So,
absolutely. We're trying to do as much as we can to kind of get a group of us to do something, pick them, bracket. It's just really cool to see a group of listeners and us and just kind of people who love the XFL and all that, just all together doing something goofy.
Exactly.
So it's fun. And again, thank you to everybody who has joined. And as I wrap this up, again, follow us, XFL Weekly, XFL_weekly, Instagram and Twitter. On Twitter or on YouTube at XFL Weekly, and on podcast, you can find us XFL Weekly. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe. I'll have a poll if you're listening on Spotify. I don't know what it is yet as I'm speaking this. Zach, give me a poll.
Oh, man. Should the Orlando Guardians rename it to the Orlando Guardian Dome? Yes or no?
Yeah, rename the Camping World Stadium to Orlando Guardian Dome.
Even though
Beautiful.
It's outside.
Even though there is no dome. That's our poll. Please vote. I'll probably have something else.
I was going to say, we'll come up with a better poll. That's a garbage poll, but we'll come up with something a little bit better,
We'll have something.
You threw me on the spot and I panicked. I had to bring up the Guardian Dome.
I'll probably ask you, I'm throwing myself on the spot now. I don't know. If you had to pick a location for an XFL expansion, where would you
That's
put
a good one. That lends perfectly. That's a great one, Kyle.
Beautiful.
Yep.
So look for that poll on Spotify if you're listening there, and if you're not, that's okay. Don't worry about it. And once again, thank you for tuning in, Zach. It was a pleasure.
Always,
I'll see you next week.
See you.